All right, welcome everyone. My name is Victor.
Hi, I'm Tam.
And today I'm going to be interviewing Tam about a topic that she's quite interested in and knows quite a lot about. And that is the topic of Japan and Hawaii relations, the history of Japan-Hawaii relations. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Okay. So my first question is, Tam, can you tell us about the first contact between the Japanese and the native Hawaiians?
It's a nice, interesting question. The first initial dates back to, I think, 1806, if I'm not mistaken, with a ship that actually was adrift for 70 days called the Inawakamaru. And basically, this ship here had started off near Hiroshima and then was set adrift for 70 days and ended up drifting to the Hawaiian Islands in around 1806, which would be around the time Hawaii was actually becoming a unified country under, and I'm sure a lot of people know the name Kamehameha. He was the first king to unify all 8 islands. We've got many islands, but the 8 major islands. Prior to that, Hawaii, each island was its own separate country, and he unified the country, or Hawaii, the kingdom of Hawaii, in around 1810, so a couple of years after that ship had stranded on Hawaii's beaches.
So I'd like to ask you a question about this particular picture that we have on the screen. And I believe it is from the year 1881. So there was an interesting proposal made by the King of Hawaii when he visited Japan in 1881.
Yeah, you could see him in the middle.
So he is the gentleman in the middle.
Yes,
in that
front
photo.
middle, yeah.
And he was trying to initiate treaty discussions between the two nations, between Japan and Hawaii. So can you tell me more about this proposal and how it could have changed Hawaiian history?
Yes, yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, the gentleman in the front middle, that would be our last king. His name is David Kalakaua. We can see 2 of his cabinet members in the back, left and right. And they had negotiations, as I mentioned, with the Gannemmo incident that happened around 1866-68. Japan barred all immigration to Hawaii due to unfair, harsh conditions. So Kalakaua was one of the first monarchs to actually travel the world. And what he did was he went and he visited, he was on a 10-month tour over 20 countries across, and he visited over 20 countries during that time. His first choice was to visit Japan. He recognized, the similarities as an island nation. And he wanted to, there were a lot of countries that were coming in to try and take Hawaii because of its strategic location in the Pacific. The United States, Russia, France, the UK came, and Japan as well, but he highly respected Japan and the UK in particular. And if you look at the Hawaiian flag, you'll notice the similarities to the Union Jack, which had been designed together with Kamehameha to follow the Union Jack in design.
Interesting. I mean, how history would have been so different if Hawaii and Japan had formed an alliance or a treaty instead of the United States. Yeah, a couple of other pictures I'd like to ask you about. So on the screen now you have the Meiji Emperor.
Right.
And who are some of these?
So we've got Emperor Meiji and Kalakaua, David Kalakaua, our last reigning king. We had a queen right after he passed away.
Right.
The upper right. On the bottom left, we've got Yorihito, who is actually a cousin to the Emperor Meiji. And on the bottom right, we have Victoria Iolani, who at one point became the crown princess and would have been our last queen. And the proposal was that Kalakaua had suggested to the Emperor Meiji was for his cousin to marry Princess Iolani. Princess Iolani, as I mentioned, the Kalakaua dynasty, not many of them had children. And so she was the only child from amongst his siblings. She's actually half Scottish and half Hawaiian, her mother being the younger sister to Kalakaua. But that was his suggestion to unify or to unite, to join Japan and Hawaii. And I think it was his fear to America, especially at that time, to, I don't want to use the word steal the Hawaiian kingdom, but they had forced onto him at that time in 1887 to sign what we call the bayonet constitution, where he was forced at gunpoint to change the Hawaiian constitution, and he wanted to strengthen ties with Japan. That was his first choice.
And on the screen now we have a photo of a particular building. What can you tell me about this particular building here?
For those of you who have been to Hawaii, this building, of course, is still standing. It's Iolani Palace. It was a palace designed by Kalakaua, maybe I think 1882 or 3, around that time. It was the second building in the United States, or now we're a state of the United States, to have running electricity. And they say that the development of the electricity costs more than the actual building of the building itself.
But it was ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah, definitely ahead of its time.
And the next picture I'd like to ask you about is this particular building on the screen. What can you tell me about this one?
Well, this building here, again, I think it was the following year in 1883. This is the Rokumeikan, which was developed by the Emperor Meiji. Similar focus on Western architecture. Iolani, that we just saw earlier, was based on British design.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is a different style. So I'd like to move forward a couple of years, so 1885 onwards. So how did things change from 1885 onwards in the later Meiji period, particularly after the death of the king, the Hawaiian king?
Sure. Well, our king died in 1891, and he left the throne to his younger sister, who would end up being our last queen, our last monarch. So in 1891, he passed away, and the throne went to our queen, Liliuokalani, and she also did not have children of her own, which meant that she had given, the throne over, if in the case that she passed away, to the earlier picture we saw of Victoria Iolani. And as I mentioned, with the bayonet constitution, a lot of things changed in Hawaii, which gave a lot of power to these plantation owners, like
just asking about this next picture. Yeah. So this particular painting is of a plantation.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And this is actually from where I'm from. I'm from Maui. And of course, we can see this is based on sugarcane plantation. And we can see, maybe not so clearly, but Japanese immigrants.
Right. And so basically, these were the workers who had to work the fields day in, day out in pretty difficult conditions, I imagine.
Yeah.
For very little money.
Very little money, yeah.
Okay. So as we move into the 20th century, post 1900, what changes happened, particularly after the death of the Emperor Meiji?
Immigrants continued to come I think Kalakaua, the conditions, he tried to change laws to make it, better, to improve conditions for these immigrants. Not only Japan, we had immigrants from China, from the Philippines, from Portugal, and overall he tried to change or to institute laws that would protect these people's rights. And people continue to come, and up to the point where if we take a look at the population.
Well, this is the next question I'd like you to ask. So
okay, I'm jumping ahead.
Let's jump ahead to the current
Sure.
situation. So you're saying there were so many different types of immigrants, so many waves of immigrants coming to Hawaii. So how would you describe the current makeup of Hawaii's population?
The population of ethnic Japanese make up about 1/5 of the population.
So they are the majority.
Oh, yeah. They're not the majority, but they make up a really
the
large.
majority of the minority.
That's right. Right. More than native Hawaiians. So.
Right. So essentially, you've got people from the American mainland.
Yeah.
And then you've got a sizable population of native Hawaiians.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Japanese, ethnic Japanese, make up the largest group amongst all the other immigrants.
Amongst all American states, Hawaii is considered, outside of, I think it was Alaska, the most ethnically diverse state.
Right. So it's a real melting pot.
It is. It's not a salad, if you may.
Oh, very, very interesting. Yeah. So I think you've shared a lot of information with us, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening to our presentation.
You guys.
And hopefully you've learned something from this interview.
Yeah, the next time you go to Hawaii, hopefully don't just hang out at Waikiki. Check it out. It's pretty interesting.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. See you again.